Okay, so we're moving into the last 2 weeks of this class, and I had another wonderful conversation. So appreciate the students in the classroom regarding just feedback and where we're at. And I want to go over some of the stuff that we talked about and give you also some look at how I'm implementing geolocation into my app so far. Okay. So, and also looking forward to what we all talked about, which is on week 18, right? So we have homework and classwork all the way through week 17, and then we all agreed that we'd do a demo day on the Thursday of finals week, which will also be a pizza party. So for those of you that haven't always been able to make it to class, please come think about coming to that. We're going to do a demo day, our final demo day. So plan on that. So if you're looking at the calendar, let me just do that real quick so I can give you that. Should have had already this up, but no big deal. So if we go to December, right? So this would be the final week of the semester would be here. So it would be at the 3 o'clock time on December 15th. And we'll do a demo day pizza party. So hopefully we're going to see some of you there. All right, so for this week, starting in this week for your classwork, I needed to have seen you've gotten through the first four. Okay, so if you're still working on the first four after starting this week in this classwork, then you're going to see some points reduction because the idea would have been you've gotten all the way through here. Okay, and then we start working on these last three items, and really mostly these last two, because this one is just do some user testing, have somebody test out your app. Okay, now in order to support people that are still getting through some of this, what I did is I placed my code up into the shared with everyone in the November My App so that you could see for my implementation how I handled through an iffy all the functionality of my app as it is today. Okay, so this gives you at least a look into an implementation example of all those items in the first four required inputs. Okay, so you can check this out and see how I handle it. The one change I would tell you I've made since then is on the user creation. When we create a user, not when you log them in, but when you sign them up, I've actually added a .then before the catch, and the catch is catching any errors that the create user would see. I did a .then before the catch. Matter of fact, let me just show you. I actually have it right here in my, here it is. So so you're not going to see this in that, but I'm just telling you, it's about the only thing I've added into here, which is then to do a then. And so what I'm doing is only when I have a user created do I set this new is user new equal true, and then I continue processing in the case of a catch those error messages that I showed you last time. Okay. So what I could do here is actually just call the write function that I handle here on the is user new. So that's a refactor I could possibly do, is just call this, but I have to make sure, of course, I have all those fields before I call that function. Okay. Okay, so coming back here, so I just wanted to tell you, if you want to, and I recommend if you're still struggling, at least go look at my implementation. Come see me if you're having challenges here getting this part done. Okay, so I'm going to move on to talking about geolocation, and I won't talk about Ajax this week. I will talk about it next week. But for geolocation, I decided to find some good videos out there, and then I took their examples along with just Google Maps. Google Maps, I think if you go, let's see, hopefully it's just here, the API, because there's two different things here. One, this is not the one I'm looking for first, sorry about that. I will find the one. It's just basically a step-by-step tutorial on the code to get location. But there's two things here. One is the browser, and I'm going to give you this link that I use, which is JavaScript Lesson 18 on Geolocation API. And I really like this because it really helps you understand geolocation. And then when you get geolocation, you then send that to the Maps API to get an actual map. So I think this is a nice way of doing it, right? So I implemented his IFI here that he goes through, but then I took that along with the tutorial from Google, and I did my own. As a matter of fact, I will show you what I did here. So what this does is when you load the page, you have to have already okayed to or agreed to location, and then it will then place a map into the HTML and then put a marker where you're located. Okay, and it's not a lot of code. So let me show you the code that I wrote for this. Right, so here's my map. I ended up doing this outside of my app because now I'm going to integrate it into the map. So what I did here is I created a style just for map, and this is out of the Google tutorial, and then I created a div called map, and then I had a script that calls the Google API with an API key. Okay, so what you're going to need to do here is go to and search for after you log into Google, which is a Google Developers Console, and when you get to that console, there is a way for you to sign up for the API. Okay, so this is really where you would do that. So you can go and sign up because there's a lot of APIs, and I just signed up for that one, which I got a key for. Okay, so that's the HTML. So when it loads this, it actually has a callback to a function called find me. Okay, so here's my find me function, which by the way, here's the IFI I wrote from that one video, and here's what I ended up customizing it for myself. So in this function that's called as a callback when this API loads, it asks if navigator.geolocation, and basically what that's asking is your browser able to read your location or a location, right? And so when you do that, if it's true, right, then you call and you get your current position, and then when you have that, there's multiple parameters, arguments you can set here, but one is a function that says that I called based on the other video on position received. I called this function on location not received, which means something happens and I just capture an error at the console. Okay, so on position received, this function gets called. I grab because it's passing the function that it gets from calling this. So function, our position is passed in, and then what I do is I actually I create a object with lat and long for the position passed in from this call. And then I define a map based on, again, the tutorial from them, but it's basically creating a new map, getting it by that ID, and then you can create the zoom level and where you want it. And then you just create the marker as well. Okay, so that creates that. So this is really the line right here that creates the map. Okay, so then that's what gives you, when you're looking at it back here, right, that location, that map, and then that marker for your location. Cool, so give this a try. I think it's fairly straightforward. Again, I recommend two things. I recommend looking at this video, and I recommend looking at the Google Maps. Let me see if I can find that just real quick. It would be the Google Maps Android web. There we go. Map API, and I believe this tutorial, here we go, there we go. So creating the map marker, I believe this is the video. Yep, this is it. I went through and looked at their code to create this. So this basically did a default Latin long. And so what I did is took this, like I said, together with this video, and then I created my own. So now what I can do next step is I would integrate this into my app, asking the user if I can look and read their location, and then I would take their Latin long and store it into Firebase. So that's my next step in doing this. Okay, so just to be clear, hopefully that, by the way, that helps you. So I've implemented some geofunction functionality, but now I have to integrate it into my app, and then we'll talk about how you can either use with the geolocation or some other way. Ajax, we'll talk about that next week, and we'll talk about user testing as well. Okay, so but just to be clear, if you're still working on the above four here, I'm going to evaluate it on a case by case basis, but you needed to have gotten through these first four by this classwork. Okay, hope that helps you out. And I think, was there anything else I wanted to say? I don't think so. So I will chat with you soon. Peace out.